Hello, students and parents that are interested in esports at Central Middle School. Uh, a couple things to apologize for first. First, my voice is very much shot and ragged right now because I have recorded this several times, and each time the specific setup that I was using was corrupting the data. I finally figured out what was doing it. We should get a clean video file this time, but it does mean, boy, it's been a long time since I've been talking. Thankfully, it does mean I've practiced out what we're going to be talking out quite a bit, so I am not going to be making this really complicated and like throwing up a bunch of graphics and stuff like that up on the screen. But I am going to be trying to give you as much information as I can. So here we go. We're just running full long at this. So, eSports. eSports is a great program that we have here starting up at Central Middle School. Technically, we had it running last year as well, but it was much smaller and it started quite a bit later than we had intended it to. This was for a number of reasons. First off, the organization that we were joining, the OESL, which stands for the Oklahoma Esports League, was still figuring out how exactly middle school would end up interacting with all their things because it was their first year trying to start a middle school tournament. We were trying to figure out a way to potentially get like switches and systems that would be needed for the OESL. Thankfully, the PTO helped so much and pulled through to make all of it possible for us last year. I cannot thank them enough. Seriously, the only reason we had an esports program last year was because of Principal Poutler going out of his way to make sure that we had all the connections we needed, and the PTO gratefully providing all of the different stuff that we needed for it. Thank you so much again to both of those groups. I have been the esports coach. It's been a voluntary position for now. I'm hoping that eventually, once we grow it big enough, that we'll end up being able to pull more of the district into it and get it recognized by the district as something that can be done at the middle school level rather than just at the high school level. The OSSAA is already technically involved in things like esports nowadays, even though it's through channels that we won't be using at the middle school level. So it has been recognized to some degree by the district, but not across the board for middle school yet. So that's kind of our goal here. That's why this year I'm trying to make the program as big and as loud as it possibly can be so that we can't go unnoticed and that we will get some success across the board right now. Right, so let's talk about what esports has been like so far. Esports has been, last year at least, it was being involved in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Rocket League, those two different games. There were a couple other games that the OESL promised for us to be involved in, but as time went on, they were unable to meet a lot of those requirements for the games to end up happening. It was games like Mario Kart 8, which they couldn't ever decide on a format for. Minecraft, which again, they couldn't decide on a format for. Pokemon Unite, which ended up being a lot more pay to win than initially thought, so we couldn't really do that without kind of just giving the trophies to whoever paid the most for the game. Anyway, those two games, Super Smash Bros. And Rocket League, ended up being wildly successful. We had local tournaments at our school to figure out who would be our representatives for those. Again, it was kind of last minute, so for those of you that were participating last year, this should be a lot more organized than that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But either way, in the end, by the time that we went through all the different local stuff, by the time we went to qualifiers and ended up at the state championships, we had one of our players get third place in the middle school category for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and our Rocket League team got the state championship title, which was fantastic. They did so well. We also then were later invited to something called the AEA Nationals, which had us and high schoolers present at that event, and we managed to get third place in that, almost getting second. It was so close. It was heartrending how close we were to getting second, which would have actually gotten us scholarship money, a cash prize in the form of scholarships for all of our different students. So with all that amount of success that we'd gotten so far last year, I'm all the more excited to just launch into it this year with so many different students. So one of the things, and you'll notice I'm kind of looking over to the side because I have the whole document pulled up of the information page. You see, if your child is interested in this, hopefully they have also brought home 3 different documents that you'll need. One of them is an information page. It's double-sided, has stuff on the front and on the back that tell you a little bit more about what the program is like, gives you a couple of links that you might need if you want to see the different information that's getting taught, things like that. The other 2 ones, there's a sign-up form for me, what I need, and then there's a sign-up form from the district, what the district needs. Both of those will just get turned into me anyway, but it's important that you know that the reason why that's 2 different sign-up forms is because they're going technically to 2 different places. Anyways, let's continue on from here. So, esports. By this point, hopefully you know what esports are. Esports are video game tournaments that we do. Championship, head-to-head competitive video games. Sometimes they require quite a bit of cooperation in them as a whole team goes up against a whole nother team, and sometimes it's more solo matches, one-on-one sort of environments. Either way, whole bunch of different games, whole bunch of different categories, and we have been trying to get ourselves involved with a couple different tournaments to make sure as many game categories as possible and as many slots are open for students that want to participate. So we've had this. Esports is very much nowadays like traditional athletic sports. I know that when people were quite a bit younger, video games were seen very much as a distraction, and they weren't really prioritized at the school level. They were seen as just something that was going to be taking them away from their academic achievements. But nowadays it is seen much like traditional sports. It's a chance for people to have healthy competition. It's a chance for them to practice their skills, to make like training regimens for themselves and have ones provided for them by a bunch of professionals. And also, perhaps most importantly, in addition to teaching those social connections that they need one for another to learn cooperation, they also are learning the social skills that they need to be able to win and lose gracefully in a way that's a lot more positive of a manner, which I think is a fantastic way to have that sort of approach to esports. Learning how to win and lose in a good way is actually going to help them a lot with several other victories and disappointments that come in life. Giving them the tools that they need to healthily approach that nowadays, it's one of the best things that we can do for them. So, moving on, what it looks like at Central, I talked about it a little bit. We had this happening last year. It's going to look quite a bit different this year. Last year, our practices were entirely just Tiger Times. Tiger Times being those sort of morning activities that replace advisory during 2 days of the week. And we had that, and it was working well, and it was fine, but we could only have like 24 students in at a time based off of the fact that we had 3 switches, 3 TVs that we were able to use, and we had to like have a pretty good rotation of people moving through those different sets. So with a limited amount of time practicing in the morning and with a limited amount of materials, there was only so much that we could do to have practices happen. Especially games like Rocket League, there wasn't a way for us to practice that at the school, and there still isn't. So that made it quite a bit hard to coordinate some of those things. We may do, obviously, we did very well tournament-wise, but we're trying to shake that up a little bit more this year. This year, we're looking at getting into 3 different tournaments. And again, this is because we want to have many more spaces for our students in these different tournaments, and we also want to have many more games provided. If we tried to just get involved with the OESL again for this year, for instance, we would only be able to provide a team of 5 students for Smash Brothers in the fall semester, and a team of technically 6 students. It's 3v3 matches, but we like to have 3 students in our leads and then 3 student substitutes that swap out and change our strategies after every round. So 5 students for one semester, 6 students for the other semester, and that's it, would not be making for a very good esports program here, which is why we're also getting involved in the OKSE, which is the Oklahoma Scholastic Esports, and also the MSEL. The MSEL is the Middle School Esports League. The Oklahoma Scholastics League is a local state-run tournament, which it seems to have some very good materials in place for us to have success in there. The MSEL is actually a nationally run tournament. Students competing in that league will be competing with people from all over America. So it's a much wider, much bigger league that has some different rules to it because of that. So a couple of things to keep in mind when it comes to this. Practices for esports will be happening every Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30. It might not technically be every Thursday. I might, occasionally, since I'm the only one running it here, there may be times where my schedule has an honest conflict with things and I need to very quickly send off a whole bunch of emails to let you all know, but I will try my hardest to make sure that information is sent out at the beginning of the week and not like 6 hours before. So please have a little bit of patience with me while that happens, but I'll be doing my best to stay on top of that. The practices happening at the school from 2:30 to 3:30, we will only be able to practice the games that are on the Nintendo Switch. Those games right now are Super Smash Brothers and Mario Kart 8. I'm hoping to also get enough people involved in this that we can get Splatoon or Splatoon 2. They haven't technically told me which game it is out of Splatoon and Splatoon 2. I imagine it's the first Splatoon. Anyway, we're going to be going ahead and getting those games on the Nintendo Switches, but those are the only games that we can actually practice at the school. Because you see, what ends up happening is the schools themselves have we aren't able to join the internet gaming lobbies that are needed for so many different games. So even if we had students saying, "Oh, I'll bring my Xbox. Oh, I'll bring my computer to school," which I would not do. That's a wild suggestion, and it sounds really great. But the moment you try to connect it to the internet to play any of the games that are on these tournament lists, almost all of them are run through an internet connection, and the school does not have the ability to have that internet connection happen. So what's going to be done with the Nintendo Switches is we're going to be doing local play things like 1v1 matches in Super Smash Bros. Or just 4 players doing free-for-all and getting to see some different strategies around. Mario Kart, 4 people all on the same device racing against each other, things like that. There's going to be ways for them to still practice and get good practice in on these things, but we're only going to be able to practice those 2, maybe 3 games on the Nintendo Switches at the school. We will also have Tiger Time happening in the morning that will have a rotation of people also being able to practice 2 days of the week. Monday, Friday is what it is right now. They'd be able to practice other Nintendo Switch games. Sorry, I say other Nintendo Switch games. It's the same Nintendo Switch games, but they're practicing at another time. And they're also going to be practicing potentially with different students all around them, because that one is everyone signs up and hopes that they get a slot into one of the 24 spaces for the morning esports. Again, I wish it could be different, but we only have 3 televisions up in that part of the school. And it's assuming that I managed to reserve all 3 televisions all of the year. So fingers crossed on that. It might even have to be a smaller group because we can only get 2 televisions, or 2 televisions and one of the rolly televisions, if those even exist anymore. Anyway, all of that goes to say, practices and participation in the esports may look a little different than you're expecting because there are so many different games. I'm going to go ahead and read out some of them here. Actually, I'm just going to read out all of them. In the OESL, which I mentioned before, they only have those 2 games, one in the fall, one in the spring. The fall game is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. The spring game is Rocket League. The OKSE has actually 2 different seasons. They have the fall season and the spring season. I think they technically call it the winter season, but I've been calling it the spring season because that way it's 2 seasons apart. Anyway, the OKSE will have the same games for the middle school and the same team sizes run in the fall and in the spring. So when I say that there will be a Fortnite team, a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate team, a Knockout City team, a Rocket League team, a Paladins team, a Halo team, and a Mario Kart team, that means that those teams will have one set of teams in the fall, like starting up games in like mid-September, and the other teams organizing for a spring semester. And my ideal goal would be to have different players participating in both of those so we can get as many different students involved in the esports program as possible. This might mean that your student is very, very interested in one of these games, but unfortunately, we don't just have enough spaces for them, right? For example, Fortnite. I've had like 20 people just in my first 2 hours ask me, how do I get onto the Fortnite team? Right now, unless we pay an additional fee to get more spaces in the OKSE, and I'll be talking about that a little more in a bit, unless we pay an additional fee to get even more spaces in the OKSE, there is exactly 1 team of 4 players that will play for each season, which means a total of 8 students across the whole year will be playing Fortnite in their challenges. You can imagine that means a lot of students are going to potentially miss out on the chance to be a part of the Fortnite team because of the sheer small amount of numbers that we have there. But I'm going to be trying my best. If we have enough students getting involved in this that want a space, I'm going to go ahead and pay the additional fee that we need for the OKSE to get involved in there. I don't know what that figure is yet. Again, I'll talk about that in a little bit. The other group is the MSEL. That's the one that's nationwide. Last year, they only allowed 7th and 8th grade to compete. This year, on their main website, they're saying 6th, 7th, and 8th can compete, but in some of their handbook things, it goes back to the old wording of just 7th and 8th. So I'm still trying to get a hold of a coordinator who can verify for me for certain that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade will all be able to compete in that. The games on that one are Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You'll notice Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is in each of these categories. It's a very popular game. It's one of the ones that collegiate esports hires people off of and gets scholarships specifically sent their way. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Rocket League, Minecraft, specifically the Minecraft survival games, that is played on Java, so they have to play it on a computer. If your student is saying, oh, I have it on Xbox or I have it on my phone, that doesn't work for this. You have to be able to play it on a computer that specifically is Java Edition. It's a whole thing. Mario Kart 8, Splatoon, and weirdly, 10-minute chess, which I wouldn't have thought of as an esport, but it technically is. As long as you have a computer that has an internet browser that's able to access the website for 10-minute chess, 10-minute chess can be the esports category that your student is in, which I just think is awesome. The MSEL right now, the only information I have is for all those games to be in a fall season starting September 12th. So I don't know if there's a spring season. I haven't heard about it. I don't think it exists. I think it's just the fall season, and then they have like a weird like summer half program. So those are all the games that we will potentially be having for this year, with the OKSE having a fall set and a spring set, and then the OESL having one game in the fall, one game in the spring, and then the MSEL having multiple games all in the this first semester here. So you can imagine that with so many students trying to sign up for these things, your student may not get the very first pick of the game. In fact, they might not even end up playing this semester. Hopefully they would play second semester. But if we have too many students, it might just be a thing of they still are involved with the program the whole year. They can still be gathering up, get practicing with students. They can still figure out connections that they want to make in order to create teams like this for the future, because there are so many cooperative games. Working with those game units in teams will end up giving them more of the practices and opportunities that they need to become even more successful at these things and potentially join the teams that are actually competing the next year. My goal is to get as many students as I can actually competing. That is my high goal. Right now, with the way that the numbers are looking, this first semester, I'll be able to have 61 students competing. The second semester, it would be, roughly 40-ish. If I buy more slots for the OKSE, that means that we have more slots available in the fall and the spring semester, which increases the amount, I think, up to like 81 for one of them, and then up to 50-ish. So I guess it's actually 30 in the fall. I'm sorry, it's so late and I have lost all control over this. I'm just hoping that this video actually saves, because we've hit like the 16-minute mark, almost 17-minute mark. Anyway, again, we will only be able to practice the Nintendo games, Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart, and maybe Splatoon at the school. Even though some of the other games have Nintendo Switch versions of them, those aren't the versions that are generally recommended that we compete on. Or they're games that we only are able to play one player on. Like Minecraft, yes, you can play on Nintendo, but it's not the right version, and it's only one person at a time. So we're not going to really be practicing that at the school. Not to even mention the fact that it is internet-based, and, well, can't really do the internet games. Right, so there are eSport team fees. I tried my absolute hardest. Believe me, I did. I tried my absolute hardest to avoid any sort of fees happening. Unfortunately, just with the way that this goes, with needing materials to accommodate for so many incoming students, with needing to also pay for the OKSE is the program that I really wanted to get all our kids in, because that's the one that has the largest amount of numbers and is in fall and spring. Unfortunately, that is a $200 buy-in for the tournament just off the bat. And then there's more money if you, of course, want to get the more slots in there. I don't know how much more money it is, because the prices aren't listed anywhere in their rule book. I've just been in contact with other people that are getting involved in the OKSE, and their representatives have told them it's a $200 for both of the semesters together. So I'm going off of that information. They're still getting the representative in contact with me, and I will be able to tell you a little bit more information about that in the future. I hope. Seriously, I hope. So right now, the fees that I've set them at are at $20 per person. Remember, this is $20 to be involved in esports for the whole year. So this isn't just like one semester esports. It does mean it might be a while until your student is actually participating in the challenges, in the playoffs, in the qualifiers and things like that we have, but they will still be a part of that community, and they'll be able to be practicing in this group environment with the goal of working it as a team to join those games, whether it be in this first semester or the second semester, or just later on in their schooling career. $20 each is what I have set as the thing, because it'll buy us the materials that we need for additional switches, for additional games as we keep on getting those happening, and it also pays for the transportation that we need to get to these events, as well as the actual events themselves. Unfortunately, like I said, the district, technically, they've allowed us to have this program at our school. They've sanctioned us as a club, but unfortunately, we're not getting any sort of payment or dues, and I'm doing this just as a free volunteer coach. And I'm really hoping that that changes next year, because boy howdy, I'm putting a lot of work into this. So the permission slip form that you're going to sign and fill out, There's one for me and one for the district. The one for me is the one that looks almost exactly like the information page. It says Central Esports Permission Form at the top. Very simple information on there, student name, their grade, their email. I before had you also putting advisory teacher, but then I realized I can just like email them and ask what their advisory teacher is. Below that, I want them to put a check mark next to all the games that they are fine playing and that you are fine with them playing. Most of those games, they will have to be able to play and practice at home because we don't have the devices and the games for them here at the school. They wouldn't even connect even if we had them. So if your student is saying that they really want to be playing Fortnite, they have to be able to be practicing it at home, and they have to have a way to actually play Fortnite at home. You also need to sign off on your approval of them playing these particular games. For instance, I know this is a big one. Halo Infinite is part of the lineup. Halo Infinite is a game that is rated T for teen because the online combat version of it is mostly space weapons. There's not even there's a toggle for violence that is pretty much turned off in these competitions, just as a way of running the things and not having too many distracting graphics and stuff like that. So it's a rated T for teen game that you will only be able to have your student practicing if they are practicing at home. I'm not having that game practice here at the school. There are many parents that have seen Halo in the past and have been uncomfortable with the violence that's happening in that game. So I'm not able to have that practice at the school, and I don't want it practiced at the school. It's something that would have to be practiced at home. I want us to have a team for it, a category for it, because these are games that are actually leading them to be prepared for the high school level games, for the college level games. But they're not games that I want every student to think that they have to be preparing for and have to be practicing to some degree. That's just one example. The rest of these are actually, almost all of them, yeah, I'm pretty sure all of them are rated E for everyone. Some of them E10 and up, technically, I think. Like, I think Smash Bros. Is technically E10 and up. That's a weird ESRB rating. Anyway, so everything is E to teen, though, on the list. And with Halo being that T for teen game. Once they check off everything that you're fine with them practicing, whether it be at home or at the school, if it's those Nintendo games, you'll go ahead, you'll sign off your name, you'll sign off your email, an emergency contact number, and you will need to provide either cash or a check made out to Central Middle School for the $20 needed for that. Beyond that, you'll sign that, you'll make sure that that comes to me. The other thing that is signed is a district paper. The district paper is giving the students additional access to the website where they will see the event categories and the games played and their enrollment within specifically the MSEL. The MSEL has their own separate website for running those games and for signing up on them. And the students need access to that, which means the district needs to give them additional access. So that's why you'll sign off on that paper. Again, that'll just come back to me anyway. So you don't have to worry about them going to two different places. This was a really long video. I know that. I'm going to try to probably film it again and cut it down even more, but this might just be the video that you get. And if that's the case, I'm so sorry. But most of the information that you need is all contained within the document that your student should have given you, that information page. This is just me explaining it in a little bit different and more comprehensive of a way, despite it taking like 20 minutes to understand. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your efforts. And I really hope to see all of you and all of your students involved in esports this year. I'm really excited for it. Thank you so much and so long. Goodbye.